During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk a little about dicamba and some label changes that ended up occurring in June. Dicamba, just to give you a little history, dicamba has been out for about 50 years, roughly 50 years, and it has been sprayed all over the world. Dicamba is very lethal to many broadleaf weeds. It is relatively safe to corn and some different crops early in the season, but the real challenge with dicamba came about 3 years ago when it got labeled on soybeans that were tolerant to dicamba. Now, there were some new formulations that came out, namely XtendiMax, Ingenia, and Fexapan, but the problem is they were still giving some volatility issues. So just to explain what the difference is between drift and volatility. Drift, that's when you're spraying and you can visibly see the spray move over off target to somebody else's crop. With volatility, what that is when it gets sprayed on your crop and then it vaporizes, picks up, and potentially moves off target.
Well, when you think about that, this is something, again, as Brian mentioned, it's an active ingredient that's been out there for 50 years or so, and you might think, well, wait a second, if there is a little volatility potential, why would they put that into a trait stack and now have more acres that dicamba's going out on? Well, it's because the product has been so effective on weed control, and it controls a lot of these tough weeds that have become resistant to Roundup.
And quite frankly, we hadn't seen a lot of volatility issues prior to 3 years ago. But what ended up happening is people were so focused on, I have to spray when there's no wind, so a lot of spraying unfortunately got done in the evening or very early morning. The problem with that is when you spray too late into the evening or in the early morning is there are issues in terms of the overall environment, namely air inversions. Right as the evening is hitting and into the early morning, it's very common to see the soil cool off and there's a hot layer between the soil and the atmosphere. That hot layer traps some of the vapors, and so it is common to see a little bit of that vapor getting into that hot layer that might be 10 or 15 feet off the ground, and it moves off target.
And there was a pretty quick response as soon as the air inversion situation became really important and critical. Well, there's a lot of extra training now that farmers are required to have in order to spray these dicamba products on their farm. So farmers learn about these things, and what we've seen is less problems over time.
So what happened is 4 years ago, these products were supposed to get labeled when there were only a few acres of that particular trait of soybean. Well, it didn't get labeled that year. So then the following year, the acreage ramped up in terms of the traits for soybeans and for cotton. So then there were literally tens of millions of acres of that trait. So the first year, tens of millions of acres got sprayed with the dicamba. You just can't have that for new products and new situations. So if everything would have gone through as the EPA had told these companies that, hey, it should get approved by this particular year, then it would have been on a few acres, we would have learned everything we needed to know, and you wouldn't have seen a big issue 3 years ago. So that's really, in my opinion, the root cause of the whole problem. If it would have gotten tried on a few acres, we would have figured it out. Now it's figured out. Now we hardly have any problems spraying dicamba. Everybody knows about air inversions. All the farmers and applicators are properly trained, but you can't go back in time. You can't change things. And in the meantime, the Ninth Circuit Court out in California said the EPA needs to vacate these labels. So we'll see what happens in the future. This is not affecting any other dicamba products, just these 3 products that are getting sprayed over the top of Xtend crops.
Well, and it just goes to show, even with a 50-year-old product, you still have to keep learning every year and getting better at what you're doing. And one of those things that farmers are trying to learn about every year is our weed of the week. We'll show you how to stop this weed coming up later in the show.